In 1808, my ancestors left here and moved a couple of miles north towards Balquhidder, where they lived for around 200 years. This used to be the steading of Strathyre. I'm not sure how it's pronounced. I've seen it spelt a number of ways. I've seen it spelt as Strathyre, ending in a Y, R-E, and Strathyre, ending in I-E-R. I'm just going to call it Strathyre and hope for the best. In Ordnance Survey maps, by the mid-19th century, this steading or farm was a ruin, and today it's just a field. Just above us is Glen Buckie, and in that glen there's a large collection of shielings. Now, when I first spotted these shielings on a map, it just made perfect sense to me that they were used by my ancestor and also by the occupants of the adjacent Lagan farm. You know, shielings were generally upland, sort of lower kind of hill, temporary dwellings. You know, all my instincts were telling me that these shielings were used by the occupants of this farm here. Whether that's the case is another story, because such a large collection of shielings, it could be anywhere between 22 and, you know, up to about 80 different structures, nothing of which really remains. We'll be lucky if we can see any outlines or bumps in the ground, but you know, that is the hope. So today I hope to follow the route that I think my ancestors may have taken if they had occupied those shielings for a couple of months in the summer. As I say, I don't know whether that would have been the case, but I'm going to try and follow the exact route. There's a few obstacles, there's a few streams that I might not be able to go over. There's a bit of forest that I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through. It depends how thickly the trees are together. So we'll see how we go. I mean, at the end of the day, my ancestor, if they had used those shielings, would have perhaps met with the same obstacles as they led their cattle up the side of the hill here. So let's see how we go.
Bartholomew's 1941 map will give you a good idea of the area in which we're walking. You can see Strathyre near the top right, Loch Lubnig in the bottom right. You can also see Strathyre and the adjacent Lagan farm just below. You can also see the track leading up into Glen Buckie, Leanach, and the area with all the shielings that we're heading for. We're on the final stretch of this series of forest tracks. A lot of these forest tracks will be fairly modern, but underneath at least one of them will be a much older track. And if you look at Ordnance Survey maps, you can see that there is a substantial track leading from Strathyre up, sort of following the course of the waterway, I forget its name, Strathyre perhaps, or something like that. Heading up this way. And as you saw in the 1930s Bartholomew's map that I showed you just back there, that showed a continuous footpath from Strathyre all the way towards Lianach. In some maps, there isn't a continuation. You can see a good track. From Strathyre, but it sort of stops and then sort of starts a good bit further on, heads over a ford towards Lianach. But I strongly suspect that that's been a path and a kind of a way, a track for many hundreds of years. Right now, we're getting close to where this track turns right, and just at that point was where I had thought to go through the forest for just a very narrow section, which will bring me out into the open and heading in the direction of the Shielings. But that's a pretty thick forest on my left. I am actually looking out for the waterway, Strathyre or whatever, because if I can follow that, that's the way I want to go. Right, so this path is bending around to the right, so very shortly on the left. Ta-da! I haven't seen the stream yet, but that is clearly a way through. I mean, I could see daylight through this narrow section of woodland here, and I could probably have gone through the trees. They're not that close, but here's a path. What could be better? In many ways, it sort of backs up my thoughts that, this was the way that my ancestors would have gone in order to get to the Shielings. Because this does have a feeling of a substantial track about it. It wasn't on my maps, I didn't know it was here. It's only when you're on the ground that you can really get a true picture of what's going on. And daylight's not far away. We'll come into a clearing. We'll follow that waterway for a bit. And the Shielings shouldn't be far off. They're actually spread out quite a bit, and there is some doubt as to whether I'm going to be able to find them, but I'm looking at Google's satellite view. There is one sort of well outlined structure. It's not circular, I don't think it's rectangular either, it's just a rather strange shape. Okay, right. I'll need to get my bearings here. I'll see you shortly. This is like a secret valley. I've seen quite a few little orange butterflies that I've never ever seen before. Don't know what that bird was. Yeah. And I found a kind of very rough path here. So I'll stick with this because it's going in the right direction. Okay, so the plan is just to keep going along this open section here. We've got woodland on either side. And the Shielings, I don't know if you can see straight ahead there, there's a very large rock on the hillside. And just about there, or just after there, the trees on the left will grind to a halt. And it's in that sort of area on the left that I hope to at least find a few of the remains of the Shielings or the structures that used to be there. It's going to be a wee bit of a kind of struggle getting there because this ground's all over the shop. It's a wee bit marshy. But let's go. This is a nightmare. The ground surface is undulating by a feet more than a foot at a time. I can't see where I'm putting my feet. You put it on what looks like a kind of bit of solid ground and it kind of drops. Jesus, right. If I don't fall over at some point, I'll be very surprised. But then, you know, this ground would probably always have been like this, unless it's been planted with trees at some point. Maybe that explains why it's all over the shop. But I suspect it's always been right beside Strathyre and any number of little streamlets. So it's bound to be very wet ground. And you know, if you're leading all your animals along here to reach the Shielings, the animals might find it okay, I'm not sure, but any human would find this a real struggle. Okay, I haven't reached the area that I was making for, where there is supposedly the largest collection of Shielings, but as I think I touched on at the start of this video, there is a lot of structures in Glen Buckie, and the whole area was probably fairly highly populated at one time or another. This is the remains of a shieling. Of that I am in no doubt. You can see the kind of rough kind of raised raised part. There's stones. You know, although it's a temporary structure, they must have moved stones to kind of at least form a kind of solid base or foundation for any kind of walls. I would imagine, although it's a stone base, you would probably, I think it would have been turf. Layers of turf getting built up in order to make this temporary structure. And it's not very big, you know, you wouldn't have a great deal of comfort in here. And I mean, this is the entrance here, because that's a sizable stone. You'd have come in here. I mean, could I lie down in here even? Excuse me a minute. Yeah, I mean, you could just lie down and you wouldn't be able to do an awful lot else. Because at the end of the day, it's just shelter. You know, you're coming up here in the summer months, your cattle are making good use of the kind of lush, higher pasture. And you're getting on with the business of looking after them, feeding yourself, and then coming in here and sleeping at night. So that's all you would have used this for. Unless they would have had larger structures, which you could have done other things like cooked or something, I don't know. But, as well as this one here, there is just behind the camera another bump, but that would have been another one. And once you start to recognise what it is you're looking for, I suspect just round the corner there, we're going to see them all over the place. I hope you can see from there that this is very different to some of the other Shielings that we've had a look at. This isn't just a
a crude, vaguely kind of oval or rounded structure. This is a building. This isn't a shieling. And it's sort of rectangular in shape. There is a dividing wall. So you've actually got a structure with two rooms. And it's right beside one of the streams there. You know, an ideal place to be staying where you've got because you always need a supply of drinking water. And you're in a lovely sort of sheltered glen here. Beautiful. You've got another structure just on the other side of the stream, and it too looks vaguely rectangular. As I perhaps said earlier, I mean, at one time Glen Buckie was quite well populated. You had probably the main centre of population, although I'm not even sure about that, would have been Leanach. Some sort of medieval township or a collection of small farms. And this huge collection of shielings and other structures, you know, clearly aren't shielings, it's buildings, perhaps they are just a part of that township, and that this was a really very heavily populated area at one time. Or perhaps it's a separate entity in a little township in its own right. And yeah, I mean, as I say, I read somewhere that there was upwards of 80 different structures had been identified. That's a lot of structures, you know. If you're going to erect a shieling at some sort of temporary structure, if you're going to go to the trouble of constructing a stone base for the kind of turf or whatever it would have been that kind of formed the upper part of it, then when you come back next year, you're going to use the same structure. You're not going to suddenly start humping other stones about the place and make another shieling. So lots of these shielings would have been used year in, year out. But you know, it's just funny to think that, and I do believe this, even if this was a kind of township in its own right, whether as a separate entity or part of Leanach, I do believe that there was a temporary shieling element to it that was used by my ancestors in the steading at Strathyre and the adjacent farm of Lagan. Because it makes no sense for Leanach or Immeron to use any shielings here, because these are on a similar kind of level or height to Leanach. There wouldn't be any advantage to lugging your cattle along here, I don't think. And it makes much more sense for these shielings to have been used by my ancestors. Found a track, or the track. The term "thank goodness" springs to mind. It's just kind of rough, very difficult walking on that ground. It's just
sprained ankle territory, it's horrendous. This track leads to the existing farm of Immeroyne, and from there I'll pick up a footpath that will take me up on top of the hill on the right there, where we'll end the video. I'm going to bypass Leanach. I had thought maybe to have a look at Leanach, but it's a real struggle on that ground. As an old guy who has done a fair bit of walking in his day, I think one of the main bits of advice I would give to anybody who is thinking about walking in Scotland's great outdoors is to recognise when you're beaten. Because right now I'm beaten. It's sometimes hard to know what it is that kind of makes you decide to kind of call it a day during a day's walk. It could be any number of things. I mean, I'm just physically tired. I was up at 4:45 this morning. It's probably just that. It could be any number of things. The stretch of ground at the Shielings was actually quite rough, and I think that's taken quite a lot out of me. So I am calling it a day here and going to finish the video here. I was going to, I mean, the whole purpose of this video was to have a look at the Shielings and Glen Buckie. I've done that, so you know, mission accomplished. But what I was also going to do as a couple of add-ons was also have a look at Leanach. I decided not to do that because for me the ground's just a bit too rough. And I was going to end the video on the top of the hill just behind the camera there, which overlooks Strathyre. But again, I recognise when I'm done, and I'm just ending the video just right here. That's Loch Lubnaig down there, and if you were cycling from Strathyre to Callander, you would be on the right hand side of that loch. Beautiful scene. Anyway, I shall live to fight another day. I'm Eddie Burns. I'll see you again.